Most people absolutely hate giving presentations in any context, online, offline, in a meeting, in a big presentation. They hate giving presentations. They just want to get through it, get to the end, and get out of there. I actually think this is an opportunity for anyone who has the time or spends a bit of time on working on their communication and presentation skills to be better than everyone else. It is a competitive advantage to take some really good strategies on how you communicate and do better than everyone else around the tables, because you're immediately going to be different once you can start communicating effectively. My name is Laura and I help people communicate and present more confidently. I help them build authority and influence in their workplace, upwards, sideways, downwards, whichever way they need to. And I really help them take their opportunities and perform at their absolute best, manage their mindset and perform at their absolute best in every situation they're in. So this video is 5 game changer strategies that are going to change the way you present and communicate very, very quickly. 73% of people have anxiety about speaking, according to the National Institute of Mental Health. And 75% think it's worse than dying. And I actually think this is, it's one of these internet stats that actually, it kind of like, of course people would say that in theory, but in reality they'd much rather stand up in front of people than actually die. But anyway, this is a stat that goes around all the time. This is my favorite picture of when I'm training people to communicate and present and engage with other people, because when you are presenting, this is what most people are thinking in the audience a lot of the time, aren't we? We sit through hours of business and corporate presentations, and actually that's how we're feeling. It's my favorite photo of the dog that is actually, oh, I'm so bored, just get on and say what you got to say. Yeah? We all feel like this most of the time when we're watching sort of business presentations. So how do you change it? And how do you change it quickly? Game changer number 1. Think about who you are talking to and what they are interested in. Now, we always think about a presentation we have to give, and we think about what we want to say and the points we want to get across, and what's the point of the presentation. But actually, by flipping it over and thinking through what is important to my audience, what do they want to know about my subject, what is it that they want to take away from this presentation, and when you start thinking in that sort of flipped over, reverse way, the answer to those questions is probably different to some of the things you want to say. Now, what you want to say is probably important, but getting their attention and engaging with them is what you need to do first. And if you're talking about everything from your perspective, then they're going to be like the dog, right? Get on with it, get on with it. I just need to know X, Y, and Z. So the first thing to do is to think through, what is it that I am presenting about, the topic that I'm presenting about, that the people in my audience really want to know. And start there, because you immediately get people's attention, because they're all of a sudden they're like, oh, right, okay, this is something worth paying attention to. And I always like to think about the emotional touch buttons, the pain points of the topic that I want to talk about, because by focusing on those first, again, you get attention. So number 1, game changer in the way you prepare presentations is to think about what it is you're talking about from the other person's perspective. And actually, when I train people with this, they'll come in with they'll come to me and say, I've got a presentation, it's on plant life in households. And they'll say, they'll say, this is what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about how you care for the plant, how you, what plant pots you put in it, where you put it in the house, how you get sunlight. Yeah. And I'll be like, okay, so what does your audience want to know about plant pots in the household? Have you spoken to any of them? They'll be like, I speak to people all the time. This is my business. This is my work. And I'll be like, go and ask them that specific question. What is it that they want to know? And I'm kind of sitting there thinking, you know what? They're going to come back and they're going to say something different, because they always do. Because although there are sort of general things that your audience wants to know, there will be specific things that they want to know about the topic you're going to talk about, and that is where you have to meet them. So think about what it is they're interested in. Now, if that person had come to me and said, what is it you want to know about plant pots and plants in the household, I would say the number one thing I want to know that drives me up the wall is, why do the leaves go yellow? And so if they started that presentation, why did the leaves go yellow, you'd immediately get my attention. Now, you might start with, why do the leaves go yellow? Because you water them too much or you don't water them enough. I don't know the answer to that. I'd love to know. And then you might give them, or you might construct the presentation around all the other things you want to talk about. But if you start with thinking about what it is my audience is interested in, you've got them and you've got their attention. You have to earn their attention. So think about, what is it that my audience wants to know about what I'm talking about, and start from there. Start thinking about your presentation from there. Game changer number 2, get attention with the first thing you say. Now, if you've paid attention to game changer number 1, you know that you need to be thinking about, what is it that my audience is really interested in knowing about in my topic. Not what do I want to tell them, but what is it that they're interested in. The second game changer to your presentation is to start with something that gets their attention. Think back to my dog, right? That's what most audiences are like. Whether they are there with their eyes open or not, people are sitting in that presentation thinking about other stuff. And you need to earn the right to get their attention. So now you know what it is that is most important to them, or you're starting to think about what is important to them in the subject that you're talking about. In my example, I just want to know why the leaves go yellow and what I need to do about them. You need to get their attention straight off the bat. So most people start presentations with, hi, I'm Laura and I'm from Talking Shop and I'm here to talk to you about doing a presentation and what you can do to help people pay more attention to your presentations or feel better about your presentation. And within sort of 5 seconds, I mean, there's stats on this, but within 5 or 10 seconds, their brain, their subconscious is like, oh, okay, here we go again. Here we go again, another presentation about another presentation, and we're not paying attention. So game changer number 2 is about getting attention straight away. The first thing you say needs to get the attention of your audience. That's what they're interested in. Remember, you've worked out, you've thought through what they're interested in the first place. The first thing you say in your presentation needs to get attention. I'm going to give you some examples of the ways that you can do this. Just check out this slide. So here are some examples of how you do that. You use a quote. You can use a statistic. You can use an interesting fact. You can use an anecdote. You can start your presentation with a story. You can use an image. You can show people an image. You can show people a photo, or you can show a testimonial. By starting with one of these, quotes, stories, facts, pictures, images, the purpose is to get attention. Now, if you remember right up front in this, I did my slight introduction, but I showed you a picture of a dog and I showed you some statistics. And that's about getting attention. I'm sure most people watching this, when I put like the slide up of the sleepy dog, you're like, what? What's she talking about? I pay attention, right? So I'm using the same mechanisms, and you can use one of these, and you need to start your presentations with something that gets the audience's attention. So number 1, think about what the audience is interested in from their perspective. Number 2, get their attention straight away. Game changer number 3 is use structure. And what does this mean? It means that if you did nothing else in your presentation, when you're presenting to people, and you just use structure, if that's one thing I could say to you, is use structure. It helps your audience follow through the presentation that you're giving. So for example, in this presentation, I've got 5 game changers to help you present better and have more impact. Okay, that's the structure. I'm going to go through 5 things that's going to help with your presentation. Now, you don't need to use these kind of ideas for your presentation. You just need to make sure you've got a beginning where you've got that introduction, get attention, tell them what you're going to talk about, tell them what you want them to do and the benefits of doing that. You've then got the detail and the chunk of content, and then at the end you kind of revise what you've said and you go back to, this is what I want you to do, this is the action I want you to take, this is what I want you to take away from this session, and here are the 5 game changer presentation things that I want you to go away and implement in your next presentation. So you've got a beginning, get the attention, talk about what they're going to be seeing and doing in the presentation and the benefits it is to them. Give them the chunk of information in the middle, which is your content, whatever that is, and then finish off with an ending so that they will walk away remembering the things that you want them to take away or taking the action you want them to take. So that in my case, I want you to go through this video, take the 5 game changer strategies for presenting, and I want you to walk away and implement them in your next presentation. Okay? To make sure you take action and use these strategies in the next presentation that you do, I've actually created a free action sheet which you can click on the description below this video. And in this action sheet, you have the 5 game changer strategies. You also have some space to write your actions and your content in each of those different action strategies. And it will help you. It's a sort of structure of how you put together presentations really fast, and it's free. All you've got to do is download the free action sheet by clicking on the link in the description below, and make sure that you go away and take action from watching this video. And it's really going to change the way you present. Game changer number 4. Watch your ums and ahs. Ums and ahs. And what I mean by that is we add all these bits of language that aren't necessary when we're talking, and when we're nervous and when we're put on the spot, we're like, I'm gonna blah 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 blah, what was I saying? And we add all these, it's called filler words. In Toastmasters they call it filler words. And the more concise you are with your language, the tighter you are with your language, and you don't fill the gaps with filler words, the more confident and professional you seem. One of the strategies of sort of making sure you're sort of giving people time to take on board what you say is to use a pause. So most people use these filler words in between these ums and ahs while they're sort of jing, 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 their brain's going. But if you just pause for a moment and let people's brains catch up with you, it has so much more impact. So game changer number 3 is to reduce the ums and the ahs and the blurs and the filler words and just use a pause, which sometimes can feel uncomfortable, but I promise you, the only thing that's going on is your audience, their brains are kind of taking on board the content that you're communicating. Because the thing is the content you're communicating is, for you, you've heard it a million times over, or you know it really well, but for people in your audience, that's the first time they've heard it. So we need time for our brains to process what we're being told, and you can give people time in the audience by pausing and not using those ums and ahs to fill what you think is uncomfortable space, but what actually is it gives people time to process what you're saying. So just notice and just be aware of some of those filler words that you're using because you feel slightly uncomfortable. Which everyone feels uncomfortable, right? It's an unusual place to be, standing up in front of other people. Game changer number 5 is communicate authority. Communicating authority means you've got to communicate with confidence. And confidence starts with your breathing. And when we're really, really nervous, our breathing sort of becomes very shallow, and that stops oxygen going to our head, so we can't think as well and we can't communicate, and our voice gets shaky. So the first thing to do when you're thinking about communicating with confidence and having authority is to make sure you're breathing deeply. And before you start your presentation, you can breathe in and out. In and out. And what that does is it relaxes your body. You feel more relaxed, because when you get tense, you sort of tighten everything up. And you can just relax and get your brain and your body and everything flowing from your breath. So the first thing to do is really breathe properly. The second thing to communicate confidence is body language, okay? And that's related to your breathing. So when you breathe deeply, you sort of become, your body language is better. Now, when we get nervous, again, when we're presenting, we close up, we cross our arms, we sort of fold our body in, and our body language is like, don't want to be doing this. Don't want you to look at me, don't want you to focus on me, don't want to communicate to you. But if we open our body language up, it means that we're open. We want to have more of an open stance. And if you put your shoulders back and you lift your head up, you just look more confident. It's just, we're trained to think that as human beings, that people are more confident that when they look more relaxed, and shoulders back, head up, deep breathing, and we look more confident. And you can practice this breathing and this posture before you go and do that presentation. And if you're presenting online, it's the same thing, okay? When we're feeling nervous, you can see my body is like, folding up, and we kind of lean into the camera when we're nervous. And when we lean into the camera, it affects our breathing. Our breathing gets tighter because we haven't got room to breathe deeply, and then our voice gets shallow and then shaky, and we haven't got enough oxygen going to our heads, and then we get nervous and we don't communicate as well. When you sit back, open up your body language, breathe deeply, head up, shoulders back, changes the way you communicate, doesn't it? So whether you're online, whether you're communicating online down a camera, or whether you're in the room with people, check in on your body language and make sure it is open and relaxed, and make sure that is connected with your breath. Another thing you can do to communicate confidence and authority is making sure you get eye contact. Now, I'm doing this online on a video, but I am being very, very careful to make sure I'm looking down the camera as much as I possibly can, so that we get a connection, right? We want to get a connection. So if you're communicating at home or in your office and you're doing it online, then you need to look down the camera. And by looking down the camera, what that means is the person at the other end feels like you're looking at them. Because if I was like this, I'll be like, blah, blah, blah. You know how you're on those calls and people are looking at everywhere but the camera, and it just feels awkward. It feels like there's no connection whatsoever. So if you're online, you need to look down the camera and get eye contact. If you're in the same room as people, you need to make sure you get eye contact with everyone in the room. So you don't talk to one side or one person, and you're not sort of like this, swaying around and around. You're actually talking like you're having a personal conversation with everyone in the room every time you say stuff, and it's a natural thing to do. So make sure you get eye contact with everyone in the room. And if you're at home, make sure you've got that eye contact down that camera, so that we have that connection together, because I want to connect with you. And I want you to connect with me, and I want you to engage with me as I would if I was standing in the same room as you. So really connect with the people that you're talking to. And then the last strategy for communicating with confidence and authority is to pause before you start. Now this does a couple of things. Number one is when you pause before you start, it gives your brain time to kind of write, I'm here, I'm going to be giving this presentation. The first thing I'm going to say is bing. I can get eye contact with people in the room, and I can get the right posture to do this, and it gives people you look confident and you look like you have authority. The other thing it does is when you don't walk up to the front or you don't start immediately and you pause, and that pause can be slightly feel like forever, is it gives the impression to the people in the room that you're confident. Because nervous people will come up to the front, start saying what they've got to say, blah, 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 and start yabbering through their presentation immediately. People with confidence, you feel like they're like, I'm here, I want you to look at me, I'm ready. And then you say that first thing that you're going to say, which gets people's attention straight off the bat. And so by having that pause before you get started gives you a chance to engage brain, body, breathing, emotions, get eye contact. And it gives the impression to the audience that you're really, really confident and you have authority. So a few tips to have confidence and authority, which is breathing, body language, eye contact. Even if you are at home, look down the camera and pause before you get started. And it doesn't, that is going to transform how you present in any situation. So all these game changers are going to, if you do all of these things, they are going to transform how you present. And just to recap very quickly, we had number one, which is think about who you're talking to and what they are interested in. Don't come into the presentation from your perspective. Think about what your audience wants to know. Number two is get attention with the first thing you say. Remember, start with a quote, a statistic, an interesting fact, something that's controversial, something that is counterintuitive, an anecdote, a story, an image, a photo, a testimonial, or something someone else has said. So get attention with the first thing you say. Number three, game changer number three, use structure. Remember, make sure you've got a beginning, a middle, and an end at the minimum. And making sure you have structure in what you say and they're as clear and it's as concise as possible, again, will make the experience of your presentation much easier for the audience. Number four, watch your ums and your ahs and your nose and whatever else it is you say when you're under pressure. Because if you tighten up the language again, it gives that impression of authority and that you're in control, even if you don't feel that control inside your tummy. And then number five, communicate authority and confidence. Your breathing, your body language, your eye contact, and pause before you start. And to make sure you take action after watching this video, there is a free action sheet which you can click on the link below in the description and download immediately. And in the action sheet, there is the 5 game changers and the details of those game changers and space to write your notes, and also space and a structure to put your presentations together. So click on the link in the description below and download the free action sheet. It's free and it will help you put your presentations together and give you the structure and the game changers to really take your presentations up to the next level. Just click on the button, the link in the description below. The other thing that you need to do is subscribe to the channel, and there should be a box that comes up on this screen too. And if you are giving presentations and one of the things that we all need when we're presenting is more confidence. So click on the video that is about building your confidence, and you can take your confidence, flex your confidence muscle and take it into that presentation that you're doing. So click on the download on this page in the description, subscribe to the channel, and go and watch that other video about having confidence and taking confidence into your presentation, and I'll see you there.